Hi gang, welcome back to the Unraised Latina Ever. Today I'm all pumped up, I'm ready to go. I was goofing off earlier. I did a little spoof on AOC. And Alexandra Cortezless is really a lot of fun to make fun of, but one of the things that isn't very funny is socialism. And I guess what people don't really understand is that the Democratic Party has a bunch of mindless puppets running behind them going, oh, this is such a good idea, tax the billionaires or whatever, tax the millionaires, until it happens to be one of them. And what is really funny about that is when you get into that slippery slope of who to tax and who not to, or you go after certain demographics and you want 70% of their money or 90% of their money, and even talking that way is very much like the place that we're dealing with now with Venezuela. So, a once thriving place with a lot of business and opportunity just basically got impossible for people to live. And a few examples of that, because I know this is kind of serious, I'm not making fun of anybody yet, but I got that out of my system before I did my video so I can actually focus, is in New York, years ago I worked in New York and I got a job at Needham Harper and Stairs. It was a big advertising agency, and I didn't have enough money to get to the end of the week or end of the paycheck. The pay periods were every couple of weeks. So basically, I wouldn't eat. I was starving. And I had to rely on my uncle Lenny, who was from Poland, and everything evolved around greasy sausage and stuff. And it always gave me the shits because I had IBS. So anyway, it kept me trim, but at the same time, it just was no bueno. Anyway, long story short, that was back when I was 19. And I'm in my 50s now. I'm an old lady. So if New York was expensive back then, and that was in the 80s, can you imagine what it would be like now? And so we have these freaking New Yorkers that come down here, and some of them get it and some of them completely don't get it. And it just blows my mind that they can't get it, or they don't understand why it's so expensive to live. And so you almost have to connect the dots. You get a coloring book for these people, and you show them a bank, and it has lots of money, and we have jobs and prosperity, and then you give them an example of what happens when we basically decide that we're going to play money god with the money, and then just squander it away on people that don't work or that don't care about working. And when we want to be fair, because once you cross that line about fairness and you play God with the money, it can be a slippery slope. And one example is, okay, they made abortion legal, and then they made it early stages. And in the state of New York, I read that a minute up and before you give birth, you can go ahead and have an abortion. And I mean, the baby's fully developed and supersized huge, and it can more than survive, if it's born naturally, or it may come so close to being born naturally. And they still, because it's inside a woman's body, call it the fetus, but actually it's if a woman were to take that baby's life and her home and decided she didn't want that pregnancy, and at any point in that time of that pregnancy decided to take that baby's life and kill it, it would be called murder. But if a hospital does it, if the government pays for it, then that makes it okay. And so murder is murder. And I think also influencing children's minds about changing their gender. And there's so much that we haven't learned about the psychological effects of mutilating somebody's genitals or taking drugs that we don't even know about the repercussions. But it's very easy to manipulate and brainwash a young impressionable child. And we have people that are very they call it progressive, Some of us might call it weird, different, whatever. But with this anything goes, we tend to go on a slippery slope. And what I'm saying is that some of us have religious beliefs, okay? We are really quick to judge somebody that might say the word fuck. But all of a sudden, because the liberals are acceptance of gay people, and that's discrimination if you say something wrong, even though it's in the Bible that being gay is a sin. But if somebody says shit, fuck, or damn, you're a sinner, and that person would be more condemned than somebody who might even be a rapist. Because okay, in the Bible, you're supposed to forgive the rapist or the murderer or whatever and accept them and love them. But for example, if you have a friend and he's part of a club and he's a Freemason, and people don't like Freemasons now, and there are a lot of good guys in that organization I know that are good friends of mine, but that guy might have better or more moral character than the rapist that came out of prison that became a Christian. And that's going to be better standing with God. So anyway, there's a slippery slope when you're judging character. And what's the basis of judging character? And with the Republican Party, oh, you can't swear, you can't do this, or you can't do that. And the reason why I don't even go to these fucking GOP meetings is because, you know what? It's gotten ridiculous. It's really gotten, oh, you missed 3 meetings and you're out, like you should be taking every fucking help you can get. Whenever we pop in should be good enough, It's like, who are you guys to kick anybody in and out? Like, because you didn't call in? And, whatever help we decide to give, it should be good enough. But what happens with this party is they're so busy nitpicking what's good and what's bad, it's becoming ridiculous. Okay, so example for ridiculous. We have the Republican Party, that's on one side. And they're in this nice, neatly little box. They're in a box. I have a box here. Let me see. This is kind of a box. Nice. Everybody goes into the little box. And then we have the Democratic Party that is outside the box. There's no box. Everybody is like, people are floating in between sexes and they're just whatever. If they want to be a butterfly, Like, okay, you're going to be gender, what is it, fluid? One day you're going to be a girl, and the next day you're going to be a boy, and everything's just going to be okay, and you can just be whatever you want to be. And there's no boundaries. So you have one side that's complete polar opposite, and the one side, everybody's going to be in the box, And yet the Republicans say, oh, we can't diagnose kids with disabilities, because really they don't have a disability, because they're different, and everybody's different. But at the same time, we have federal funding for people with disabilities. It's called Individuals with Disabilities Act. And written into the school stuff says that anybody that is of poverty, that maybe it's a social economic issue, you can't have a disability if you're poverty. And that's where the line gets slippery. And so these people can actually play God with the IEPs, even if your kid has a disability and the school district doesn't have money. So anyway, it boils down to money. And then we make an agenda out of teaching the little Hispanic kids in 2 languages that come here to the country illegally. And they have DreamX, and it's a huge money-making propaganda machine. And I ran for school board, and I sat there and studied the budgets. I know I'm weird like that. I'm so weird like that. When it comes to like finding crap wrong, like I can be laser sharp. It's like I looked at the budgets from year to year, and I said to the superintendent, and I said, oh gosh, one year I see we spent, $100,000 on a speech therapist, and then the next year we didn't have that, and then the year after that we all of a sudden have that. I said, did all those kids with disabilities just clear up? I had one of those kids with disabilities, and he didn't clear up. Well, they had fired the speech path. So the superintendent says, well, Dee, first we had a need, then we didn't, and now we do. And it was very interesting because I learned on a smaller scale how corrupt the school districts were. And you want to give power to something just equally corrupt as a school district, like government, to make decisions on your health care and make decisions about, like, oh, we should not have any borders, everybody should be welcome, and change the dynamics of the Constitution to the point we just let, like, everything goes. And I think it's ridiculous. And, you know, I don't find anything funny or entertaining about destroying our country on America, because you know what? One of the reasons that makes this the best place to come to is because we're different from everybody else. And we didn't buy into that whole socialism thing. And we're going to be better off than everybody else, because you know what? We're going to balance our budget, or we at least have somebody in office that wants to do that. But no, we have liberals in there that are working against him because they don't want him to succeed. And people on the same team, like Nancy Pelosi, if you were on the same team as Donald Trump, you'd want to sit down and work with him, because you'd want to do not what's best for your party, but what's best for the American people. I think I've made my point. Enough said. You guys have a blessed day, and if you like my video, please forward it.